welcome. First things first, let's get these meds. Now it's time for a shower. The light turned on after only 3 pulls of the cord this time, which is pretty good. It usually takes between 10 and 15. Now I'm going to perform my morning ablutions without realizing my head is cut off in this shot, but do you really think I was going to refilm once I realized my mistake? Heck no, this is the authentic Emu Magor experience. #BeReal. Now it is time to make Brexit. Since I have more time on a Monday morning, I like to be a little more elaborate, and I usually go for the hash brown and avocado and fried egg situation, which has made up about 30% of my diet over the past 5 years. But I am out of all the ingredients, so I am doing egg on hummus toast with yogurt, gruncola, and raspberries. In the past, haters named Jody McGuire loved to accuse me of never eating fruit, but now I have the receipts. I have half a tin of condensed milk that I need to use up, and I have been enjoying it in my morning coffee, although we are getting to the dregs, and it is slow as molasses. Though it is worth noting that in the Great Molasses Flood of 1919, that tidal wave of molasses was anything but slow. Anyway, once my ooze has oozed in, I take my cup of milk,
and I put it inside of the microwave.
Here you see me pause in abject horror as I notice the numbers are flashing weirdly, only to realize they only look like that through my camera and are perfectly fine in real life. Okay, you are going to watch an entire AeroPress tutorial now. Also, this shot is a great example of how I don't actually have hands, I have arms that turn into fingers. Anyway, here's the scenic breakfast, which I will ruin aesthetically by plopping a bungled egg on top. Did you know that Creed Food Services charges 65 pence per egg? I do, because I kept on breaking the yolks when I cooked them at work, and having to throw them away, and Rob finally had to plead with me to try and improve my egg cracking skills before I bankrupt the entire company. Ironically, my core childhood memory is making pancakes with my mother and her telling me what a good egg cracker I was. It just goes to show that you should lie to your children to boost their self-esteem. I am not a good egg cracker after all, but I have the confidence and emotional stability that I imagine a good egg cracker would have, and this shall never be taken from me. Same goes for driving. I am not a good driver, but I am a confident driver, and while I have received multiple tickets and lightly dented various parts of the car before, it will never be said of me that I panic and overcorrect after accidentally drifting off the road. Now it is time to get cozy. I found these fairy lights abandoned in a guest room at the hostel. Not sure why someone was bringing fairy lights on vacation, but I appreciate their commitment to the vibe. Here you see me reading Turtles All the Way Down by John Green because I came of age around 2015 and as such have no choice but to be a John Green girly forever. Now I'm doing my yoga and my black outfit with my pale little tum poking out makes me look exactly like a belted Galloway. There's been a break in the rain, so I'm going to jauntily saunter down to the post box in the village and send some birthday cards, and this will count as my fresh air and exercise for the day. I extended my journey and did a loop around the village, but the rain started again, so I arrived back at home full of regret. Here you see me securely recloistered with a lentil and greenery situation because I am running low on groceries. Now I take some time to write the great American novel, then it's off to work where I receive the handoff notes complete with an original piece of art, then I do my favorite silly little task, which is printing off the weather report, and then I spend the rest of the evening being the #1 top attentive, polite, and helpful receptionist, checking guests in, meeting and greeting, always happy to help. Starting off the day right with some very soupy overnight oats and the significantly less soupy word of the Lord. I then open the letter I received from my friend Elena and discover 2 letters for the price of 1. What joy! Then it's off to work, and I am immediately set to making beds. I always wear gloves to strip linen because, although I am generally convinced that I am immortal and germs aren't real, I am afraid I might get scabies. Then me and my old friend Henry do a bit of hoovering, and I am released for the afternoon, during which I continue my Austinian correspondence and practice my acrobatics. Now comes the time of bread making, and every time I do this, I use the Labrie recipe and call on the spirit of Katrina, Labrie's resident bread-making queen, to guide me. I do not think she saw fit to do so this time around, as I could tell from the moment I began kneading that the vibes were off, and the bread would not turn out as light and fluffy as I wanted. Also, please do not perceive my kneading technique. Like all things in life, I do it badly but well enough to get by and have no interest in improvement. Please note the agony I suffer from British cling film not coming in a box with teeth, and now things get scientific. I crank the radiator in my room to high heaven, close the door, and make the entire place act as a proofing drawer to help my bread rise. Then I have leftover sausage and mash for lunch, do some yoga, and I am back to my toils. I should clarify that most days I work several hours in the morning and several in the evening, with a 4 or 5 hour break in between, lest you think me the supreme tradwife, able to make bread from scratch and achieve the other accomplishments depicted here in the span of a half-hour lunch break. Forgot to film during the evening at work except for right at the very end, so here's me wiping down the kitchen for the night. Now begins the phase of the week with the 6 a.m. wake-up times, and horror of horrors, as I try to tumble out of bed and stumble to the kitchen to pour myself a cup of ambition, I am gate-kept, gaslit, and yes, even girl-bossed by a spider blocking the doorway. After successfully answering its riddles 3, I imbibe the fruits of my previous day's labor, then suit up for some honest toil which I forgot to film, but here's me having a coffee break with Emily and Tim. Then off I go to clean toilets and showers. You can see I'm wearing wired headphones as I lost my AirPods in my dungaree pocket, and I won't find them for several more days. I'm now going to get my biannual haircut, so here you see me donning my second most overutilized piece of clothing, deciding I don't like it, and opting for my first most overutilized piece of clothing instead. Every time I zip up my own zipper, I think of this scene from 30 Rock. Then I don a little mascara, because staring at oneself in weird lighting while sporting a hairdresser's smock and a combed-out poof ball of hair can be discouraging for anyone, so it's best to arrive a little enhanced. Here you see the poof ball, and then off I go to obtain the cruffin I've been eyeing since my last trip to Keswick. Longtime fans of the show will remember the earth-shattering cruffin I had in Cornwall, and I'm afraid to say that this one did not even come close to matching it. The bus journey takes about an hour, so every time I'm on the bus, I read a little bit of Mansfield Park, but because it is so hilarious and excellent and sympathetic, I end up going on a silent, dramatic face journey while reading for all the inhabitants of the bus to see. I like to think that any observers will think, wow, look at that lady, she truly understands her Austen. See how she laughs at all the funny parts and purses her lips knowingly at the commentaries on human nature, and not, that girl is displaying performative manic pixie dream girl behavior and she should know we all see right through her, or worse, that woman is deranged. I whipped up some kimchi fried rice for lunch, and here you see me trying to place my Tesco order, but the internet isn't working, so I try to edit my vlog, but that is also prohibited by the internet, because apparently you need Wi-Fi to airdrop things now? How can this be? I first discovered airdrop because we had no internet access at Capernwray during lectures, and so we just airdropped memes to each other because the human spirit is unbreakable. How could Apple do this to me? Anyway, it's prayer time now. It's World Wednesday, so I use my map as a guide lest I forget any tribe or nation and send them plunging into darkness and despair because of my neglect. Here we are on a dark and wretched Thursday morning. I arrive at work to see the scullery has flooded and do my best to push the water out the door with a broom, then later I head out to the North Atlantic to rearrange some deck chairs on the Titanic. Here you see me donning my chef's whites and switching on the kitchen apparatus so I can feed weary travelers their Brexit. I can now add knowing how to work a deep fryer to my resume. Now it's cleaning time, so after receiving some divine light from the heavens, I start work on the bin sinks and mirrors. Then, joy of joys, it is time to meet up with the greatest jewel in YHA's crown, Fiona, who I worked with at Windermere last year.
Cheers.
Now we enter into the Thursday night shift, which involves Rob, Joe, and I having a great time together and barely getting our work done. Notice I say the work does indeed get done, lest any spies from the upper echelons of this fine association are watching and think we are all shirk and no work in this household.
You gotta get it before the reception bell rings. Yeah!
Another dark and dreary morning dawns, and yet the children must be fed anyway. At this point in the week, I am getting a bit tired of my overnight oats, and yet, like my Irish ancestors, I persevere even in the most grim circumstances. Here I stir the beans and flip the eggs, then it's coffee break time, but Joe had no drink to toast, so he used his porridge. Among other things, I'm cleaning the self-catering kitchen today, and you can see by the way I am holding a cloth in mild disgust that I must be cleaning up some kind of fridge spill. Sausage and mash for lunch, and the weather's starting to look a little better. I watch King of the Hill whilst I imbibe. It is pretty dumb, but when it's funny, it's very funny, and it reminds me of the old country. Now we prepare the inner sanctum for the Lord's presence, for everyone knows he cannot move in a place unless it has good mood lighting. Then after prayer time, today is Friends and Family Friday, so submit your prayer requests in the comments below, I guess. I balance things out by doing a bit of heathen yoga, but the video froze. So here you see me amuse myself by rocking and rolling into a standing position, and when I at last accomplish it, presenting to the imaginary crowd like a gymnast who just stuck her vault. Back at my toils one last time for the week, I collect the dry washing. How's this for English culture? We have no tumble dryer. Then it's time to brave the rain and collect the bins, and I don't know why all 4 of us are going out because that was definitely too many people, but I guess we all felt the fraternal urge to bear one another's burdens. With the arrival of my days off came a slight break in the weather, and I really should have gone for a big walk, but instead I went to Workington to get bubble tea and rent Midnight Sun from the library because it said online that they had it at that branch. My avocado toast with eggs looks nasty as heck, but tasted good, and here I am looking amazing in a pair of novelty sunglasses that I found lying around, and understanding exactly how Titus Andromedon felt when he said, "I'm used to getting paid under the table. People leave some really cool stuff under there." Anyway, the Workington Library did not have Midnight Sun, but even worse, me not being able to find it on my own meant I had to ask the librarian about it, meaning I had to admit that I was there to rent Midnight Sun. And all for naught. Whatever. I got bubble tea, but other than that, the day was a bit of a failed mission. The evening still boasted acceptable weather conditions, so I walked down to the flooded lake, sat on a tree branch, and sent my mother a 45-minute-long video message, which she watched in its entirety and said she enjoyed, because she is an exemplary parent. Despite all this, I apparently had not produced enough words for one day, because here you see me tapping away at writing the great American novel. You can tell it will be a smash hit success, because I am wearing glasses and looking very erudite as I compose it. Devout disciple that I am, I go to church every Sunday, unless I'm going on a little adventure into the hill country, or if the bus forgets me. Here I mash my avocado, and here we see the house of the Lord. I like that my church has no raised stage area, and the focal point is the communion table with the pulpits off to the side. Now begins a time of great trial. I wanted to travel down to Windermere to support my former co-worker who was doing a bake sale at the hostel there. However, upon entry into the bus, it began to rain relentlessly and did not cease even an hour into the journey. Unable to face the 20-minute walk uphill to YHA Windermere from the nearest bus stop in such conditions, I cowardly gave up at Ambleside and sought shelter in an overcrowded coffee shop until I could get a bus straight back to Keswick. Once home, I came to terms with the fact that my entire weekend had been a bust, then, determined that the powers and principalities of darkness would not prevail upon my spirits, I decided to have the coziest evening imaginable. So there.